Hey everybody, my name is Frank Yogum. I'm the Executive Director for the Enlisted Association of the National Guard, EANGUS, here in Washington, D.C. I'm actually coming to you from home right now, doing a quick video for you on what's going on this week in D.C. Of course, overlying everything is the impeachment hearings and the impeachment vote tomorrow. Today is Tuesday, and it's the 17th of November, or excuse me, December. The National Defense Authorization Act, it was passed by the House. It just got passed by the Senate. It's on its way to the President. And there's a lot of stuff that's in the National Defense Authorization Act for the National Guard. I want to highlight a bunch of stuff that's in it, so hang with me right now. First, it's the highest defense budget we've had in a long time, $738 billion. I think it's a record high. Next year, it's supposed to go to $741, but right now it's at $738 is what the budget is. It's a 3.1% pay raise for all members of the military. Also, we found out through the appropriations process that the civil service is getting a 3.1% pay raise as well. So it's good on both sides, civilian and military. Space Force is included in it. I'm not sure about the funding for the Space Force, but the Space Force is included in the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. There's nothing in there specifically that talks about the Space National Guard, but there is the Space Force being authorized as the 6th branch of the service. Right now it's going to be rolled up underneath the Air Force. Probably in the future it will break out and become its own branch of the service, but right now it's underneath the Air Force. There are 12 weeks of paid family leave that's in the NDAA, and so that's for care of newborns or of adoptions. The NDAA also overturned what's called the widow's tax. The survivor benefit plan is a monetary plan where a surviving spouse receives 55% of their spouse's military pension. And you pay a premium of 6.5% per month on that. And so if the military member passes away, and SBP has been elected at the full amount, then the surviving spouse gets 55% of whatever that pension is. VA pays dependency and indemnification compensation, DIC, and there's been an offset against the two for years. And so what they've done in this bill is they are going to phase out the offset, and so that by 2023, those surviving spouses who are receiving SBP and DIC will no longer have an offset between the two. They'll get the full amounts of both of those. So that's in the bill. There was a portion of there's a law out there called the Ferris Doctrine, and it's where military members who have experienced maybe some possible malpractice or alleged malpractice by military doctors in their treatment and care cannot sue that doctor. There's provisions here where this doesn't replace the Ferris Doctrine, but it does allow the Secretary of Defense to award monetary damages for those people who are injured by military doctors. So that's in there. TRICARE Reserve Select is in the bill. Now, the Congressional Budget Office for every piece of legislation goes out 10 years and says this is how much it's going to cost over 10 years. And then if there's a cost to it of any sort, that cost has to be offset by some other reduction in another program. In this particular TRICARE Reserve Select, for federal employees, there's 113,000 federal employees that could be eligible for TRICARE Reserve Select. They have been excluded or restricted since 2005 when it came out. So what's happening here is it doesn't happen. The TRICARE Reserve Select that's in the bill doesn't become effective until 2030, which is after 10 years, that 10-year look at CBO. In other words, they could put it in the bill, have a future effective date, but not have to worry about having an offset. They needed a $200 million offset on the mandatory spending side. Mandatory spending is the type of money that is Medicare, Social Security, and other things with VA pensions. But it saved $1.5 to $2 billion on the discretionary side. The discretionary side is what DoD is funded out of, as well as the things that we use in the military. So because they couldn't find the $200 million, which is really chump change when you're talking about a $738 billion budget, because they didn't touch that money, the effective date was pushed out. I think this next session of Congress, and maybe the one after, they'll be able to find offsets and bring that date from 2030 back into about 2021 or 2022. But at least it's in there, right? The next thing that's in there is a military student identifier. National Guard and Reserve children were never identified in schools as being military related. Only active duty children were. And with the deployments we've had with the Guard and Reserve, obviously a night away from home is a night away from home. Doesn't matter if mommy or daddy is active or Guard or Reserve. If you're going to Iraq, you're going to Iraq. So, or Afghanistan. So we push to have a military student identifier for all military children, not just active duty ones, and that is going to pass in this bill. Another one is a report on granting incentives to AGR and MilTechs that are working for the Guard and Reserve. Active component has bonuses for their active duty folks. Our active duty folks are called AGRs, and they have no bonuses. The feeling has been, or the expressed purpose of not having bonuses for MilTechs and AGRs is that you have your job. You are employed full-time by the Guard and Reserve, therefore your job is your incentive. And Congress is saying, give us a report on that. We're going to probably next year look at granting authority for incentives for AGRs and MilTechs, so that's a good thing. The next one is a report that they're going to be looking for on paying BAH, Basic Allowance for Housing, in the territories like Guam, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Samoa. Right now they pay an overseas housing allowance, which is different than BAH, and they're looking at rolling the territories into the BAH system, which probably work out better all the way around. The next thing is removing all the time and service restrictions for post 9/11 GI Bill. Right now there's a 16-year limit. If you've been in the military for more than 16 years, you can no longer transfer your benefits to your spouse or to your dependent children. And this would remove that mandatory years of service requirement and allow anybody anytime to be able to transfer their GI Bill. The next thing is, let me see here. Hang on just a second. Got to get my glasses on. You're familiar with the Title V conversions and how they've been converting military technicians to Title Vs. One of the things that the Air Guard has been doing is converting 3,000 or so AGRs per year from MilTechs to AGR. And if you are a MilTech in one of those positions, you either convert to AGR or you lose your job. There's language that's in the bill that says that if you're a MilTech, dual status MilTech, and you are your position is about to be converted to AGR and you don't want to be AGR, you want to stay as a MilTech, that they cannot convert that position and that they cannot take any adverse action against you. So that's in the bill as well. There are restrictions on the number of AGRs that can be converted to MilTechs in the bill. There's also language to phase out the use of burn pits in overseas deployment locations. They've been used since 2003 in Iraq and Afghanistan and other locations. The toxins have caused cancers. They have finally said stop and use commercial incinerators, and so that's coming up. A National Guard suicide prevention program, a pilot program was approved. We don't have a lot of information on that, but that's coming up. And then we're also, Secretary of Defense has also been challenged to come up with a statement of service like a DD-214 or the DD-214 and just changing some of it to account for service for Guard and Reserve folks as well, for your part-time service, for your full-time service. The problem that we have right now is that the DD-214 is only issued if you have 90 days or more of federal active duty, and so if you have less than 90 days of Title X service, it's not documented anywhere. So we're trying to change that so that all periods of service are documented for the GI Bill and for other benefits as well. So that's it for the NDAA. Like I said, it's passed the House. It's already passed the Senate. It's on its way to the President for signature, and will be good for the rest of this fiscal year, and all these provisions will be in place. The other thing is that there's appropriations, the money side of it. So today is supposed to be a vote in the House on 2 different packages on appropriation. They've taken the 12 different agencies that have appropriations bills and put them into 2 separate, what they call miniature or mini omnibuses. Omnibus means more than one bill. Omni meaning many. And so omnibus number 1 has about 6 or 7 of the agencies. Omnibus number 2 has the others. Omnibus number 1 I think has already passed the House, and omnibus number 2 is queued up, and then it'll go to the Senate for voting, and then if the Senate votes in favor of those, which they should because they had negotiators that were working these things out, by this coming Friday when the CR is supposed to expire, we will have regular appropriations in place and for the rest of the fiscal year for all of our agencies, including defense. And so that's exciting news. We'll watch our Facebook page, EANGUS Facebook page, or our Twitter accounts, where we'll update you on what's happening in Congress and what's going on. And if you have any questions, email us at engus@engus.org. Give us a phone call at 1-800-234-3264. And choose option number 2 for Scott or option number 4 for me, and we can keep you up to date. Prefer to do it by email if we can, or watch our Facebook page. I sure do appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching this video and for staying with us here at EANGUS.